Okay, so let's just jump right in. We're immediately dropped into the scene, and you can just feel the urgency, right? It's almost frantic. We have no idea who I is or why these papers matter so much, but we feel that pressure from the very first sentence. It's a perfect hook, pulling us straight into the action. So, what is this we're looking at? It's actually a dream, captured in only 39 words. But what we're going to do here is break it down piece by piece and show you how it actually works as a complete and honestly a surprisingly powerful story. It has a beginning, a middle, and a really decisive end. You know, every good story needs a setup. It has to establish who the character is, where they are, and what they want. And this tiny story? It's no different. It lays out this urgent mission right from the get-go. And look at this. In just a handful of words, we get a full mission briefing. We've got our protagonist, I. We have a super clear objective, and the stakes are high. These papers are important, and there's a very, very tight deadline. All of this is happening in, of all places, a supermarket. You know, a familiar spot like that, popping up in a dream, can sometimes represent our own daily anxieties, or that feeling of being totally overwhelmed by choices. So, the setup is complete, we get the goal, and we definitely get the consequences of failure, missing that flight. The clock is ticking, and the tension is already ramping up. It's classic storytelling, just squeezed into a single sentence. All right, let's move on and see how this thing built. Because a story isn't really a story without some kind of complication, right? An obstacle that gets in the way. And here, well, things are about to get a whole lot worse. And there it is, the first big problem. The very things our protagonist is trying to save, those important papers, are suddenly at risk. The whole mission is already starting to unravel.
And bam, the problem gets worse. Instantly. It's not just that the papers are falling, they're falling onto a wet floor. So now we have an environmental threat. The setting itself, this strange supermarket, is starting to feel hostile.
Now this is where it gets really good. The threat isn't just there, it's growing. It's not a puddle anymore, the water is rising. This just cranks up that feeling of panic and helplessness as everything spirals out of control.
And this line perfectly shows us the internal impact of all that external chaos. The story is giving us a direct window into our character's head. The pressure is just too much. This isn't just a physical problem anymore, it's a full-blown emotional crisis.
And all this chaos is happening while this clock is just ticking away in the background. 1 hour. It's just a stark, simple reminder of the insane pressure cooker this whole scene has become.
So, just when the panic is at its absolute peak, the story takes a hard left turn. A brand new element shows up that completely changes the direction of the whole narrative. This is the turning point.
Out of literally nowhere, we get this surreal, incredibly specific image. A three-legged frog. It's a detail that feels like it's pulled straight from dream logic. And sometimes in dreams, an unusual or injured animal can symbolize a vulnerable part of ourselves, or maybe an unexpected responsibility that's calling for our empathy. It's an image that just cuts right through the noise of all that personal panic.
So, here's the key thing. The focus completely shifts. Our protagonist was totally consumed by their own mission, their own panic. But seeing this vulnerable creature forces their attention outward. The story moves from being about my problem to being about the problem of another.
And that brings us right to the climax. With these two competing priorities, our protagonist has to make a choice. This is the moment where the story's true meaning is about to be revealed.
And when you lay it all out like this, the conflict is just crystal clear. On one side, you have personal ambition, deadlines, the important stuff of your own life. And on the other, you have this unexpected, vulnerable creature that desperately needs help. This is what it all boils down to. In a moment of pure crisis, what matters more? Your own carefully laid plans, or the sudden, unplanned needs of someone else? This whole 39-word story has been building to this single decision. And there's the answer, the resolution. In just 5 simple words, the choice is made. It's quiet, it's definite, and it completely resolves the central conflict of the story. With that one decision, the entire initial mission, the papers, the hotel, the flight, it's all abandoned. That's a pretty profound statement, isn't it? The act of empathy just became more important than the important papers. The story that started with all this frantic urgency ends with a moment of quiet compassion. And really, that's what this tiny little story leaves us with. It takes a bizarre dream about a flooded supermarket and turns it into a universal question about our own priorities. When things get chaotic and the pressure's on in your life, what do you reach for? What's really important?